Our guest on Perspectives today is Casey Kozlowski. He's an Ashtabula County Commissioner. Hello, Casey. How you doing?
Hi, Bob. It's great to be with you. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. Haven't seen you for a while. That's the way it is with a lot of people, I guess. But things are opening up, hopefully. Things are getting a little better.
For sure. It's great that people are getting out a little more, and I know we as commissioners have been getting out a little more for ribbon cuttings and the like, and it's great to be able to do that here throughout the community. It seems like it's been a little over a year.
Yeah.
So it's great to kind of be getting back to perhaps a level of normal.
Speaking of, one thing I wanted to ask you about, I know you don't have a direct decision-making on any of this, but there's a House bill that would dismantle health commissions for cities with less than 50,000 people. So that would include Ashtabula and Conneaut, and they would be absorbed by the county. So what is your opinion on that? And this would be something then the county would be having to take over births in Conneaut and Ashtabula and inspecting restaurants and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I was a little surprised to see that actually pop up in legislation a couple weeks ago. And I actually had a conversation with our legislator, Representative Fowler Arthur, as well as some other state legislators on this issue. And I oppose that language. Personally, I oppose it. Don't think it's a good idea, especially during a time like this. The health departments have been very instrumental in working with many of the entities throughout Ashtabula County responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. And on top of that, they do many other things in the community above and beyond that, whether it be plumbing permits, whether it be working to address sanitary issues in the community, or food licensing and etc. So they play a vital role in our community. And in a county of Ashtabula, we've got 3 health departments that covers approximately 100,000 people. And both cities, Ashtabula and Conneaut, of course, have their respective health departments, and they're very small operations, but they serve the cities. So I think they've been doing a good job, and I certainly have opposed that language in the legislation that is being considered in Columbus.
Yeah, I wonder what the background is on something like that. I know the city managers of both Ashtabula and Conneaut say, of why during a pandemic like this is it even being considered?
Well, I think it actually has been a conversation that's been happening for some time, to be quite honest with you. Health departments most recently have had to go through the accreditation process. Mm-hmm. And I think that partly was triggered at the state level as an effort to try to consolidate the number of health departments that exist throughout the state of Ohio. So I actually think that this has been part of an ongoing discussion for quite some time in an effort to reduce the number of health departments and regionalize them more in a fashion that probably where they would operate on a county basis or even a multi-county basis. So I think this is part of that effort.
I just wonder why Columbus is all of a sudden concerned about that. But,
yeah, that's a good question, and probably a question best suited for those in Columbus. But I was a little surprised to see it as well.
Well, and speaking of that, and just kind of as a background thing, you were a state representative for 2 years in Columbus, so you know the background. And maybe you give us a little insight, because I'm sure that every year lots of crazy bills are introduced, things that maybe representatives do just because some constituents want it and they want to accommodate them or something. So maybe, maybe that is part of it.
Yeah, agreed. And I will tell you, too, I think partly why this popped up was because the state operating budget bill is being considered in Columbus, and it does much more than just state appropriations. It also is an opportunity for substantive policy changes. So that bill generally generates a lot of interest in the form of public policy changes. Mm-hmm. That's where you see things like this pop up in the budget bill for consideration. And you'll see a number of things. I mean, the budget bill is thousands of pages long, and many policy changes are made in this bill. So this is a time that usually pops up. If you consider it as a standalone bill, I think, that obviously the situation would be much different. But generally, in a budget bill, things are moving quickly. And here's an opportunity, perhaps, to get some language in that would make a change in fairly short order. I think that's why it popped up.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk about is something, since I'm not at commissioners' meetings anymore, and one thing is the ending of the public defender's office as of June 11th, and I'm just wondering what it's being replaced with for. The public defender's office, a lot of people that get arrested and go to court and are going to need legal representation. Even though they're stealing, apparently they're not making a whole lot of money on it because they're indigent, and that means that the county is required to provide them with legal counsel. And right now it's a private agency, correct? And so
it is. It's a private nonprofit. Yes.
So it's going to become a county agency.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought this up, and it's a great question, and I've received a few questions about it. So here in Ashtabula County, the manner in which our public defender's operation operates is actually we're one of only a few that operate that way in the state of Ohio that are left. Most have transitioned to assigned counsel entirely, or they operate as a county entity. I believe at this point right now, and they could have changed a little bit because it's been a few months since I pulled these stats, but there are only 7 other counties that operate in the state of Ohio out of 88 that operate with a nonprofit, and well over 20, maybe close to 25, operate as a county operation, and over 40 operate with assigned counsel model. So we're obviously, everyone has the right to assigned counsel, and that's not changing in any way for them to have access to an attorney. But what we're doing is we're kind of transitioning the office into the 21st century and operating now soon as a county operation. So they'll be treated just like any other county operation, such as the county prosecutor's office, the county treasurer's office, recorder's office, and so on. They'll be treated in the same fashion, and also subject to the same public scrutiny and using tax dollars and so on as any other county agency. So that's what we're transitioning to. Is to make them a county entity, and this will allow us to really, I feel, enter the 21st century, and that'll also benefit the employees to a large degree because the employees will now be public employees and so on. So I think it'll be certainly a good change, and probably a change that's long overdue.
So if some places they assign them, so every time somebody needs an attorney, is there somebody that's employed that calls up local attorneys and says, "Hey, we'll give you $5,000 if you represent Lebzelter on this DUI charge or something"?
Sure, right. Yeah, that's a great example. So here in Ashtabula County, yes, cases will be assigned either through the public defender's office. So if there's an indigent person that needs that needs an attorney, rather, they would either be assigned an attorney through the public defender's office, or there are situations where there's conflict of interest. So, for example, the public defender's office can't represent both sides, so then there will actually be assigned counsel. So in that situation, you'll actually have the judge that will assign an attorney, from the region. It could be an Ashtabula County attorney or from an adjacent county, and then that attorney will represent the indigent person as well. So that way, there's obviously not a conflict of interest where there's 2 people from the same office representing both sides, and then obviously the parties are still having the right to an attorney at no cost.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it operates right now. Here in Ashtabula County, we spend approximately about $1.3 million on an annual basis for indigent defense.
Folks, just behave yourself. Save the county some money.
Right. No, absolutely.
So this was something I found interesting, is that the commissioners have proclaimed June 5th Gay Pride Day in Ashtabula County. And a few years ago, that would have been unusual. And I don't know that anybody really bats an eye anymore. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
So, and I think in this situation with the proclamation, this is actually not a resolution, it's a proclamation, but this is to, recognize an event that's occurring here in Ashtabula County. And the commissioners are obviously supportive of, assisting in community endeavors. And this proclamation obviously recognizes that event here in Ashtabula County. We receive proclamation requests on any number of things. The commissioners have, obviously, worked with things such as Ag Week and FFA Week, Black History Month, and the National Day of Prayer, and so on. So we received many requests, actually probably well over 100 on an annual basis. So we certainly work with the local organizations to obviously support community endeavors.
Right, and at the time you were talking about inclusiveness, everybody belongs.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely.
So another question, I don't know if you've gotten information yet, but I have heard that Ohio was losing a U.S. House seat because we've gained population, but not enough population. And I know that J.P. Ducro, your fellow commissioner, was really supporting everybody getting out in the census. So have you heard anything about the census in Ashtabula County? We kind of dipped below 100,000 a while ago.
Yeah. We were, I believe the last census count for Ashtabula County in 2010 had us at, I think, approximately 101,500, if I'm not mistaken. And the projections, because they do some kind of projections on an annual basis after the census is conducted every 10 years, and it showed a decline in the population. Now, here in Ashtabula County, we don't think we've severely declined, but where we're anxious to see what those numbers are. At the federal level, rather, they did release data showing how this will impact the reapportionment of House seats, because obviously House seats are based on population, and if there are areas that see a population increase or decrease that perhaps is greater, you'll see other states gaining House, while other states are losing them. So Ohio did not grow fast enough as some other states, so we're losing one. We're losing one congressional seat, therefore one delegate that will vote for the presidential election. Now, we don't know, though, how that will translate into Ashtabula County's population and what those numbers look like. They haven't released county data yet. We hope to get that hopefully in the next couple months. But it'll be really interesting to see, because I think what you've seen is obviously the Midwest hasn't grown at the level that perhaps the western part of the country has grown, or even the South.
But one thing I kind of was interesting is I went to the ribbon cutting for Rick Firmage's, his real estate office in Conneaut a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I interviewed him, and he said that a lot of people have moved away from the area, are moving back. They're looking for homes. It's difficult to find a house. And really, really impossible to find a rental unit. So, even though we may have, it's better to grow somewhat, and rather than the population decreases that we have been experiencing.
Exactly, and I agree with Rick there wholeheartedly. What we've seen here in Ashtabula County, I think, over the years is Ashtabula County kind of operated as like a hidden secret. I don't think people fully realized all that we had here, and our land was affordable. There was obviously many houses for sale and so on. But I think now that's changed. We're not a hidden secret anymore, and many members of the community have realized that. We've got a lot of people from outside the county moving here. A lot of people with younger families, buying their home here and so on, because of the affordability factor, but also because, our so many things I think are favorable here in our community. So that's changed, and now it's hard to find a home. Houses are listed and they almost sell within a couple days.
Yes, I've heard that.
Multiple offers. So it's incredible to see. So I'd like to think that maybe that was a trend of the past, where maybe we weren't growing at the level we should have been, and perhaps over the next several years that we will in fact be growing much quicker and faster.
I got about 30 seconds, if you could answer this at all, is what's going on with the internet? You hear about President Biden's infrastructure is going to include internet, and where there's parts of Ashtabula County that don't have internet too.
Yes, we have a lot of areas that are underserved or unserved entirely. So we're anxious to see if the stimulus bill provides any funding for broadband, because we could use every dollar. And Commissioner Ducro has been leading the broadband task force here in Ashtabula County, and has really taken on efforts to address broadband issues, identify the underserved areas, and then make connections with the companies that provide internet service to get service in line to support those areas that need it.
And with that, we got to go. Casey Kozlowski, Ashtabula County Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Great day.
You too.